All right, so I reviewed, you have 2 dogs, but he's the one who's 8 months and he's fearful of people.
Yes, he
Okay.
was wild. So he was found at like 6.5 months old with his siblings, and the mom was dead from a car accident in southern Illinois.
Okay.
So they don't think he'd ever been around people
Sure.
his whole life. So I've had him for like 2 months now.
Okay.
He's doing really well. He's doing better with people. Like I had a couple people over the other day, and he let one of them pet him, and it took me 3 days to be able to handle him. Yeah. But once I just picked him up, like he sniffed at me, but he will sniff at people, but he doesn't close down all the way, you know? Yeah, he warns them.
Sure.
Like, what do you do to another dog? He's really good with other dogs.
Okay.
We go to the dog park every day, and as long as no one tries to touch him, he's fine.
Okay.
If someone bends down, so like looks like they're gonna pick him, try to touch him, he'll sniff just once, he'll just go bark.
Okay.
But he was in the beginning, like even going on walks, he'd just bark at everyone he saw and just, you know, really. But he doesn't do that anymore.
Gotcha.
Because I've been working with I brought it with me. I've been working with like at the air canister.
Sure.
So like when he barks, if he even sees it now, he knows like.
That's it.
Yeah, and we use it like in the house when people come over because he'll bark a lot.
Sure.
And now he's not barking as much, so it's working really well.
Okay.
But I still want to be able to take him everywhere, and I just want to make sure I'm doing everything I can. I thought, you know, a professional trainer would have ideas to help me move him along a little faster, and you know, make sure I'm doing what I should be doing with him.
Okay.
Because you know, I want friends and stuff, and I don't.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And Rosie's super good. If he like goes after, like if he does that, like aggressively to another person, he's not really aggressive, but you know, she goes over and yells at him basically, and like pushes. She's a 75-pound lab, so she just like pushes him out of the way and don't do that. You know, she corrects him.
Okay.
But anyway.
Anything else about Oliver I should know?
He's super loving now. I mean, to us, it took me a few days, but he's so affectionate and nice, and I'm like, he's gonna like. If he would just get over it, he's going to really enjoy people, you know? It's just, it's sad that he's so fearful. I mean, what he just did with you is, you know, he's only been doing that for about a week. Like going up to people he doesn't know and sniffing them.
Sure.
So he's definitely, and he's super smart. I've trained him a lot of commands. He knows hand signals. He learns a new command in a few minutes.
Okay.
Super smart. So he's one of the smartest dogs I've ever had. He housebroke really easily, learned the leash really easily. So I think that's about it.
Okay. So your main thing, of course, is we don't want snipping, right? You're wanting to kind of more so be proactively social. It sounds like.
Yeah.
And then other than that, he's pretty much a good dog.
Yeah, really good dog.
Control-wise, like obedience-wise, how much control are you looking for with this guy?
I think eventually, like, he could be, he's part Greyhound, Italian Greyhound. Like, you know, it'd be cool to be able to do agility and stuff with him because he's so agile. He can jump like 6 feet straight up in the air pretty much, and he can jump over the couch, and he's really crazy. Agile. I don't know if I'll ever have time to do that, but
sure.
You know, I would like to have complete control over him because I don't like, you know, like today I actually had him on a retractable leash and he pulled it out of my hand because I was tying his poopy back and he ran to the street. And I don't want if we're in a city, I want complete control. He's got perfect recall, really, not 100%, but probably 99%. I've trained him to the command and he does it almost all the time. But he was freaked out because the leash was pulling behind him.
Sure.
So he was scared of that, so he was running from it.
Yep.
And so he was just out of his mind, scared.
Gotcha.
But I'm not using that leash anymore because that scared me so much.
Sure.
But I think even this, dragging on the ground, would scare him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Would you say, so like let's say you take him into like a very high energy environment or very like a lot of stuff going on, Is he like pretty cool, or do you see like where he gets kind of flighty? Does he get any nervousness with all the like people walking around or anything like that?
He's nervous, but he doesn't act out or anything. He stays next to me. He actually gets closer to me, and just watches my hands and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I took him down to the lake shore, like in Old Town and stuff, in Lincoln Park the other day. On the weekend, it was super crowded. There were so many people in the street, and like a woman was like, "Can I pet him?" And I'm like, "No, you can't pet him. I'm sorry. He looks so nice, but he's just, I'm afraid I don't know what."
Sure.
And but there were kids and people in strollers, and and we were at the park and right on the lake, and he was fine. You could tell he was not at first super comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually he relaxed and he acted like normal. He acted normal. He didn't act afraid anymore.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to expose him to as much as I can, so it's not scary. But and he's good for the vet. He's good at groomers. Like if I just hand him to a groomer, he's fine, because I think he's nervous when he's in like a pet store or in a groomer. So he's like more tame actually. When he doesn't feel comfortable, when he feels comfortable, that's when he's gonna most likely like defend himself, because at home or at the dog park, he feels really comfortable at the dog park. Well, it's not the dog park, but in Palmer Square, every morning people get together with their dog and put them on long leashes. And so they can run, they're on 30-foot leashes, they can run around quite a bit. And he does so well there.
Okay.
And he lets big dogs tackle him, and he's never ever lashed out at another dog.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Before reaching out, did you do any like reading or research on us and?
Yeah, I read some stuff about you and some reviews and things.
Okay. So I actually have like 2 cases like this guy right now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I mean, they weren't feral dogs,
Uh-huh.
but it's the same thing where they're fine if you like just ignore them and stuff, but as soon as you try to put pressure on them,
Yeah.
they respond.
Yeah.
So one of the things is I train using a remote collar.
Yeah.
For me, it's the most effective tool. It guarantees you off-leash reliability despite what's going on.
Yeah.
If something happens like an emergency and the dog is like panicking and in flight mode, you're able to force the return.
Yeah.
Because it's not so much about recall at that moment, it's a dog running for its life. Kind of like when the flex leash or whatever fell, right?
Yeah.
Then that was scaring him because it was following him. So situations like that, right? So with a guy like this and how this would all work is and I have this is a sleeve here.
Okay.
Because I've been ignoring him this whole time.
Yeah.
And like he was sniffing me and stuff, which was
Yeah.
good. Like he's curious.
Yeah.
Which is always a very good thing to see. But then I wasn't putting any forward pressure on him because I know, like from what I read in understanding dogs, just because he's sniffing me doesn't mean that he's ready to be touched.
Yeah.
Right. And then most people assume like, oh, you're sniffing me, and they just go to pet him, and then dog sniffs, barks, or runs away.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's too soon.
Yeah.
So when it comes to stuff like this, there's 2 fronts to it. There is the being approached and then being the approacher.
Okay.
Okay, and we want to do both.
Okay.
Okay, because the being approached aspect of it is what's going to get him comfortable with like people just petting him.
Yeah.
Okay, and then being the approacher is what's going to help him be more proactively social.
Okay.
Which means like he sees someone and instead of like being standoffish or like curious, but then when they approach like, oh no, get away from me.
Yeah.
More so he'll come towards them, and if they reach to him, like he's not going to be so much like, hey, get away. It's more like, oh, okay, like then he like will take in the petting. Okay. And that's of course what we're striving for. So here, if I move into him, you see how he moves back?
Yeah.
I'll go into shorten your leash a little bit. That's good right there. And let's just approach him again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't bite hard. He's
that's like a 0.5 on the Richter scale.
Yeah.
But you can see where he gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So everything was fine until I put that forward pressure on him, and then you see the movement back.
Yeah.
Okay? So that movement back is actually what's fueling the snipping.
Okay.
Okay? Because he's going, I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And so the brain goes trying to get away. Once that's not an option, he's like, okay, then back off, right?
Yeah, it's telling them.
Right. So that's where teaching him to be the approacher is part of the fix,
Okay.
because the brain's learning I can't move away from this, I have to move into this.
Okay.
So I've had plenty of dogs where I go to approach them, highly aggressive, or like him, like low level, like not so much aggression, but like defensiveness.
Yeah.
And then when I pull them and use the remote to make the dog come to me,
Yeah.
and I'll pet them, nothing.
Yes.
And the owner goes like, why is it that when you went to approach, the dog was being defensive, but then when you made them come to you, the dog would care less? I'm like, because when I'm moving into them, when they move away, they're saying, I want nothing to do with you,
Yeah.
which then grows to, I'm going to defend myself.
Right.
But if
and
the-
they think they're in charge then too.
Right, because they're moving back, right? They're controlling the situation. But if they make the decision to move into me, there's no resistance there. So then when I go to touch them, the dog's just like fine, right? So what we're looking to condition here is, one, we want to correct the snipping behavior. Okay, it's low level. However, it for him remains an option.
Yeah, and it could build like.
Yes, it could.
It does sometimes.
If someone catches them completely off guard, like
Yeah.
it could escalate, which makes sense, right? Like I wouldn't hold that against them, because a lot of people, especially now, the ideology around dogs is, if I see a dog, I get to pet them.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, no, like that's
Yeah.
not your dog. Like
Yeah.
if you want to pet a dog, get your own dog.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah, they should always ask. It's like unbelievable if like people don't ask.
Yeah, I mean, I had a client whose dog used to be like highly human reactive.
Yeah.
So when they would walk him, like he'd be lunging and barking at people.
Yeah.
Because he was fear aggressive.
Yeah.
And as long as you mind your business, like he was fine. Like once we did the training, he was good. No reactivity, all that was great.
Yeah.
And then like they were standing in the corner and someone just like started petting the dog. Like, and the owner didn't even know. They were just like, oh look,
Yeah.
there's a dog here, and the dog turned around and bit the person.
Yeah.
And then they're like, why would you touch my dog? And they're like, oh, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
So I understand dogs. I wouldn't hold it against them, because that does happen a lot, where someone will say like, oh, my dog bit someone, and I say, tell me what happened. And they might say, someone came out of nowhere and started touching them. I'm like, yeah, that's to me a valid response, because would you just want some stranger touching you
Yeah.
on the street? The answer is no. Except we don't bite people, we punch people. Right?
Yeah, that's
or we
right.
yell at them.
Yeah.
Dogs, they don't have
Yeah.
fists or whatever, so he goes to his defense mechanism, which is going to be his mouth.
Yeah.
So, but we do want to correct that, because let's say with this, we can do what I call like forcing pressure, which means if I keep touching him with the sleeve, eventually, and this actually is most likely what happened to you if he was like defensive in the beginning,
Yeah.
is one, he couldn't get away from you because he was living with you
Right.
24/7. So that helps to expedite the process.
Yeah.
But then, since you have to continuously, handle him,
Yeah.
he got over that and eventually just accepted you, and he's like, okay, I trust you, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna have that with people
No.
at the dog park or whatever, right? So if we even if I use forced pressure where I just keep it on him and he learns like, okay, like, there's no point in trying to be snippy, because they're not gonna back away. Not everybody's gonna have this sleeve that's gonna allow them to just keep petting him until he gets over it, right?
Yeah. Right.
And it always remains an option, so then the next person is going to be the same problem, and then the same
Yeah.
problem, and the same problem.
Every time.
So we would want to correct that, so he learns like, okay, when someone moves towards me, snipping is not a valid response. What happens if I don't do anything? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So then he's like, okay, and then the brain starts to like learn, and since it doesn't have that mechanism anymore,
Yeah.
or as an option,
Yeah.
they're more likely to start becoming more curious. Okay, and be more accepting of the touch and stuff.
Yeah,
That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is just getting him used to going to people he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that part takes time. It
Yeah.
takes time, takes repetition, it takes repeated scenarios, right? So if you only did that exercise with one person, you warm up to that one person, but everybody else is still kind of off limits.
Yeah.
So then if you expose them, for instance, like all the people at the dog park, and it's like maybe 5 people, his social bubble has grown it's a pretty big jump there.
Yeah.
That usually, once you hit so many people, the dog kind of just gets over that
Okay.
hump, and they're more so what I would call like social. Okay. Now there are like, I don't want to say rules to things, but like, a dog like him may not like big energy. Someone who's very boisterous,
children.
very loud, kids, yeah, for sure.
He's very afraid of kids. He's better now. I mean, there were 2 kids running around him like crazy at the park last night when I was walking him, and he ignored them. And he actually went up to one of the girls behind her and sniffed her, but she didn't see him, so she didn't turn around and go after him. So it was perfect, because he got to see she wasn't gonna lunge him.
Sure. And like things like that, so like let's say she did see him,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
right, just moves in, like that creates a huge distrust,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, so the way I would approach a case like this is the first thing that we teach almost always is the healing exercise, because it teaches the dog how e-collar works, and it helps us to calm them down. Okay. So, like here, like you said, like looking around and he was like sniffing a lot and stuff like that, which is you know, especially coming from his background, I'm not sure like how bad he was.
He was like, he wouldn't let anyone at the rescue touch him. They had to lasso him, and he was there for 2 weeks, and like they couldn't, no one ever touched him. He just lived in a cage and in a crate. So he'd never been out. He'd never like had a collar on. He didn't know like outside. Like, I mean, when he first came outside on a leash, he was so scared.
Sure.
So yeah. And I forgot to tell you, I have a dog walker who because I was like, I need other people to see him and take charge of him. So a professional would be better. So he won't let her put his harness on yet, but he lets her take her, like she can latch his leash on and take him for a walk, and he is fine with her. But she hasn't tried like picking him up or putting, she has tried putting the harness on. He hasn't bit her or tried to bite her now because he knows her enough that, but
so I agree, like he needs more exposure, but it's more so exposure on our terms and not his.
Yeah.
Because when it's on his terms, not that he's not made progress, right? Because he clearly has. Is, you know, again, that snipping or that moving away behavior or the resistant behavior is always an option. So then he's going to plateau.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be like you're not going to get anywhere, and that's where like e-collar stuff comes into play, because now it's not like having to wait 2 months for him to warm up to somebody. Now it's within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And when you keep repeating with more and more people, what becomes what was a couple of months to a couple of weeks to a couple of days, it's just a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
It does speed up the process, because now you put rules of things where it's like, hey buddy, you're gonna meet this person.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no other option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not mean or anything. The way we approach it is once you see the exercise, it makes a lot of sense. It's hard to explain to people. But once you see it and then how it operates, how it works, then it's just exposure. Okay.
Yeah.
So the leash walking exercise is super important because it helps just settle the brain down. So part of, for instance, when I went to touch him and immediately he just moves back, right? Is when you teach a dog heel, it slows the brain down. It allows the brain to take in information and not be so impulsive. Okay, so like let's say I'm dealing with a dog that has leash reactivity, which is lunging and barking at the dog. Okay, and it's untrained, it's all over the place, and it sees a dog and 0 to 10, lunge, bark, right? We teach the heel. And my version of heel is if I take 1 step, the dog takes 1 step. I take 5 steps, they take 5 steps. When I stop, they automatically sit. Completely slack leash. I don't care what the environment is. Okay, it could be busy with dogs all over the place. It could be at Home Depot, PetSmart, you know, wherever. I want that level of focus. So that level of focus slows the brain down. So now that very same reactive dog, after structure, they see a dog. Okay, and theoretically what we're looking for is they see the dog, and instead of becoming bark, it's, oh, there's a dog. And then you see just a gradual escalation. Because the brain's not already like this, right? Now it's settled. So when it sees something, it has to go through steps to trigger. So it allows us to address that much more easily, right? In his case, the way it would work is I settle the brain down, and then when I go to move towards him, it's not so, you know, like into this motion. It's going to be there, but it's going to be like slower, kind of like what's going to happen, you know? And ideally, once we've done that, and I go to approach him again, and then he just kind of he's not gonna like it, but then just kind of like, okay, oh, not so bad, right? And that's if everything's working like we would like it to. Okay? It doesn't always work that way, but that's almost always the first way I approach it. Okay, so heel is typically 2 classes. Okay, so it's not so much, it's not the obedience that's helping him, it's the discipline. It's the fact that he has to settle and focus and not be impulsive. Okay. And then we start to build off of that. Okay. So once we get that out the way, then I would jump into the socialization stuff. Okay, which is typically a class. Because the exercise is stupid simple.
Okay.
It's just a matter of do it.
Yeah, all right.
And do it as frequently as you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the one thing here that I would suggest, and I suggest for all these cases, because you might come across an issue or hiccup, is muzzle conditioning. Okay. So I have a sleeve here. I have a big old suit that's 60 pounds that I could go and touch a dog and they can attack me and I'm completely fine.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that for stuff so that we can work the dog without a muzzle.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say muzzle is we know he does get snippy, right? And if you tell someone, hey, would you pet my dog?
Yeah.
It's funny because people will pet your dog without permission.
Yes.
No problem. But the moment you tell them pet my dog, they go, why? Oh, because I'm trying to socialize him because he's kind of like iffy with people. No, thank you. Because there's no muzzle on him, right? Because they're going to think the dog might bite me, right? And, you know, technically, yes, he can, right?
Yeah.
Even though we know, and I felt it, it was, like I said, like a 0.15 on the Richter scale, is if he did snip at someone, one, if they pull away very quickly, they can pull out more.
Yeah.
Because as a predator, when he goes into that mode and something moves fast, a lot of times it brings up more.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Two, the person's going to go, what the hell?
Yeah.
Right? Three, they're going to go, no, thank you, you're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So now you just reinforced
Yeah,
a
what you
behavior.
did. Yeah.
Okay. So the muzzle helps, one, the person feel relaxed, like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, like I'll pet this dog because there's no risk to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also just for you, and it depends on how you feel about it, because I get clients who are like really anxious about their dogs biting someone, right? And they can have the same level of defensiveness as he does, but they're just really worked up about it, right?
Yeah.
Is that it helps put them at ease, because then they're like, well, what can happen?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. So with the muzzle conditioning, I would suggest you start that process, whether you work with me or another trainer or what have you. If one of your intentions is to socialize them, it's going to be a pivotal part of the training.
Okay.
And muzzle conditioning can take time.
Oh, really?
And I have right now.
I hate it.
Well, they're not meant to be muzzled, right?
Yeah.
And that's his only source of defense. That's his only source of defense.
Yeah.
So I have like a handful of cases right now who I told everybody on the consultation start muzzle conditioning, and only one person did it. Right, and all the other ones waited till the week before. And I'm like, yep, they're like the dog hates him. So I said to do this way back when during the consultation, right? So absolutely, again, regardless if you work with me or another trainer, I would think any other trainer would also say the same thing. If we're going to socialize, we need muzzle, okay?
So do you like just put it on him when he's like not feeling defensive in the house and just let him wear it for a while?
What we do is, so the brand I recommend is Baskerville, and then Maria can send you this information. And you take like for instance, his kibble or whatever he eats. Take his Ziploc bag, put it inside the muzzle, wrap it around, pat it in, and put his meal in there, and then you go to feed him. So he's going to eat from the muzzle. Okay. Now in the beginning, he may be very apprehensive. He may not eat it. I give him 5 minutes. If he doesn't touch it, I put it away. So he doesn't eat. Okay. How many times does he eat a day?
Twice.
Repeat. You can repeat this multiple times a day too.
He gets like a half of breakfast, which I split their breakfast up because when they first get up, they're hungry. So
Sure.
We don't want them eating a full meal.
So then,
So I could do it 3 times a day.
Yeah. So you just split.
Super food, like.
Motivated?
Yeah.
Good.
Motivated. I mean, so that would work. He'll do it. He won't even hesitate to not eat the food.
Good. So then, let's say he goes to eat it. As long as he's keeping that face in that muzzle, we're perfectly fine. If he ever removes his face from the muzzle, I would put away the muzzle because I want him to learn you got to keep that face in there if you're going to eat your whole meal. So then he thinks it disappears if he pulls away from it because you're wanting him to think like I want to keep my face in here because it's the only way I'm going to eat. Okay? And I do the dog's food and I suggest retracting like treats or anything like that for this process to elevate just how much the food actually means to them. Because a lot of times people use treats and the dogs will take the treats, but they, like once it comes to like actually wearing the muzzle, they won't do anything. Because the treats are like dessert.
Right.
They don't really need that, but he does need his kibble. Okay, as far as nutritional, all the nutrition is for him. So very simple process. You would start that so this way when we hit class 3, and I'm like, hey, you ready? When you have that muzzle ready, you're like, yes. I'm like, great. We just continue with the training. Otherwise, it's no, I'm not ready, and I'm like, oh, now you're gonna need time.
Yeah.
Now it's gonna disrupt the process.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's nothing good or bad. I know people feel like, oh, but the dog looks unhappy or the dog looks mean. I'm like, it's perfectly fine. It's the human, being emotional about it. But definitely something that's gonna be needed to help others feel more at ease with socializing them for you or with you. So this way we don't come across any hiccups.
Makes sense.
So that would be the third class most likely, is we cover the approach and then we cover him approaching. Super simple. And I say practice.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, all right.
See you class 4. How's it going? You tell me like, yeah, we had 5 times of practice and we had this little hiccup, and I'm like, okay, what happened? And then I would give you instructions on how to address that if you see it again.
Okay.
And then we start working on the recall.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way I operate with my programs is I have an idea of what you want and what you're wanting to achieve, and then what you need the dog to be able to do, and then I have the okay, this is, I know what you need at minimum for the issue, and then I kind of give you length of time from there. Okay. So in terms of what a dog should know, it's leash walking, it's return to me. Those are the 2 most important commands.
Yeah.
With Oliver, what if you could have what you wanted with him? What would that life look like?
I mean, I'd love to take him everywhere. I travel a lot. I'd love to take him with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't trust him right now on a plane or, in a hotel or anywhere. Right now, I just wouldn't trust bringing him. But I'd like to be able to travel with him and, and just take him everywhere with me.
Okay. So if you're so you want him to fly as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna get him certified? Is he gonna be a service dog?
I'll get him certified if he passes that. If he gets there.
So you have 2 options technically. There's ESA dog and service dog.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with what the service dog requirement is?
Yeah, I know he would be a service dog.
Okay, so he most likely be an ESA.
Yeah.
Okay. So ESA would allow you to take him on the plane.
Yeah.
So that gives me a better idea of what we need him to be able to do.
Yeah.
So you're in the at minimum 6-week range or 6 class range, maximum 12. Okay. In 6 classes, what I expect to be able to accomplish is it's 2 classes on the leash walking, 1 class on the socialization stuff, and it's once you learn it, you just start doing it. Okay. Classes 4 and 5 would be the recall. Class 6 would be the variable of and you might say hey, we've had a couple hiccups on socializing, could we try that again? And then, we just go over those little nuances or whatever that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And then that would be your 6 classes, okay? The 9-week program would be those 6, same thing, leash walking, come when I call you, socialization stuff.
Yeah.
But then we can also start what we call duration work, okay? Duration work is, if you tell him, for instance, that's a dog bed right there, if I tell him to go there, he won't move for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is gonna come in handy for the airplane.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The 12-week program is I take my dog everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, it's I look at the 6-week is I walk my dog, I go to the dog park, we go back home.
Yeah.
The 9-week is same thing, walk my dog, go to the dog park, and I go to restaurants.
Okay.
And the 12-week is all that stuff, and I go hiking, and I travel, and I fly, I go on trains with my dog.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at minimum 6 for the issue you have. And then at maximum 12 if you're wanting full control to be able to take them anywhere. Okay, so you're if the whole traveling ESA thing is a thing, you're in that 9 to 12 week range. Okay, so that's just personal preference. The longer we do, the more control you can achieve.
Yeah.
There are 6 general commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel.
Yeah.
So with the 12, we're doing all 6. Okay, when it comes to the 9-week, I'm going, okay, I know you need this, or I know what things you'll need.
He's not good with the down. I don't have anything.
Is the week,
yeah.
Go ahead, tilt. The 9-week is, we won't cover all 6 commands, but I will give you what you need so that you can have them as an ESA dog and be able to travel with them.
All right.
Okay. So it's, again, just personal preference. I've had a couple other clients who have had their dogs registered as an ESA dog. And then one did the 9-week program, the other one did a 6-week program, but his dog already had training prior. So he was able to kind of streamline the process a little bit.
Yeah.
Plus he like worked with his dog every single day.
Yeah.
So ESA dogs don't have the same privileges as a service dog. Like he's going to have limitations, but he will be able to travel with you.
Yeah.
And it's fairly simple. You just need a letter from a doctor,
Yeah.
you know, saying that he's an emotional support animal. A service dog would need to be able to perform specific tasks
Yeah.
in order to qualify as one. Okay, and there's no real formal registry for that stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. You just want to make sure that you get the letter and just keep that on you.
Oh, okay.
And then when it comes to the ESA dog, really what triggers the questions is when people don't train their dogs, they just get the letter. So then you're on the airplane and like the dog's all over the place.
Yep.
That's what raises flags.
Yeah.
You know, so as long as you go there and he's quiet, he's minding his business,
Yeah, no one cares.
no one cares.
Yeah.
Okay, so there shouldn't be any issue with that.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be like 3 months old or 4 months old too. And I saw a woman bring a 2-month-old lab puppy.
Oh, sure.
Dog, and I'm like, that's not. She's like, it's an emotional support animal. I'm like, and the
Right.
airline had the rule. I don't know why they let her bring it. I'm like, how do you even keep that dog from going to the bathroom on the plane?
Sure, I know. I would think the exact same thing.
I mean, it's a brand new puppy.
Yes. So happens a lot, but as long as he's well trained and everything, you've done your homework,
Yeah.
you really shouldn't raise any red flags. And I've trained a few service animals or helped clients train their service animals as well as those who have trained their emotional support animals, and not had any issues.
Okay.
Because he doesn't need CGC or anything like that as a prerequisite. It's just you train your dog to have reliable obedience that's functional despite the environment, and of course that letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's licking you. So he did that to my friend too. He went up to her and licked her, which he would not have done 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
To get off.
That was pretty good.
I think he'll go really fast with stuff, and he wants to learn. So.
Yeah, like I can see where he's, you know, from what you told me, where he's made progress, and within a couple months, that's really good.
I had a dog who was super aggressive
Mm.
and wanted to kill every dog it saw.
Mm.
She was also a feral dog, and that was my first experience with a dog trainer. And back then, I mean, she would be 25. She was alive now.
Sure.
But she, we used a prong collar,
Sure.
and that worked. And we started with heel, just like you do. So,
Sure. Yeah. It's almost always the first thing that you cover.
Yeah.
So the reason why I do e-collar is because one, it gets you off leash reliability right off the bat. Okay. Two, especially when we're working with these little guys, like if you did a prong with this guy,
No way.
it's so physical that
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah, I could never use that with them.
So e-collar is much more subtle. My 8-pound Chihuahua is trained on the e-collar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've trained dogs as small as 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They make little tiny ones then.
Mhm.
Okay.
They make within like the past year or two, they released the smallest one
Okay.
yet. So it gets you off leash reliability. It's super subtle. Also, with a guy like this, right,
Mhm.
is like, let's say I have a dog that's fear aggressive towards humans,
Mhm.
and you know, the dog simply is scared of me.
Mhm.
And let's say the owner like corrects the dog with the prong collar, right?
Yeah.
The dog would take the correction because it's from the owner, so
Yeah.
there's trust there. But the problem is the dog, in the dog's mind, is like, I'm scared of this person, and I'm being corrected for being scared of this person. So it's kind of like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So and then if I correct the dog, well, now it just reaffirms why the dog should be scared of me, right?
That makes sense.
With with e-collar, the dog doesn't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So with that in mind, it allows us to stop the aggressive response and not reinforce it, and the dog like be able to what we call like rewire. So if I go to pet a dog that's scared of me, I expect to be bit.
Mhm.
That's why I have these things. So if I'm petting the dog and they're being aggressive, and I'm correcting them until they stop, and then I keep petting them, they just learn like, oh, if I try to attack Jesse, this happens. If I don't do anything, nothing happens. He's just touching me, and I'm
Yeah.
not being hurt.
Yeah.
And then that's how the dog starts to get conditioned to not perceive threat.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we do the other stuff like moving to people and all that.
Yeah.
So that's the whole purpose of that. Also, you know, the collars that I use go 0 to 127. Cheaper brands will go like 0 to 10. 10 and 127 are the same. So it's not that I have 117 more levels. Higher,
They just go
I have more nuances.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can really fine tune it, because the problem with those other cheaper ones is 4 is too high, your dog is yelping, 3 is too low, your dog's not listening,
Yeah.
but you're stuck.
Yeah, there's nothing in
Yeah, so but with mine I go 40, 30, 35,
Yeah.
34, 36, I can really fine tune it.
Yeah.
Okay? So the ones that we use are very nuanced. Have you ever been to a chiropractor or physical therapist?
Yes, and I use scat mats, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's the same thing.
Yeah, and he's like, he won't go near the couch when, like, I have him trained so that if the sheet is on there now, he knows he can't get on the couch. But he's not trained if the sheet's not there yet.
Gotcha.
So I gotta get him to that point.
Sure. So the scat mat, same, it's just that, this thing.
An electric shock. I've been shocked by it like 100 times now.
Okay.
I always like sit on it or touch it or whatever.
Sure.
Like it's terrible. But yeah, they don't hurt. It doesn't really hurt. It just surprises you.
Yeah, it's just it's a muscle stimulator essentially, right?
Yeah.
So the e-collar is the same thing. And then the model he would need is like a half-mile range, so plenty of range for the average family pet. It's waterproof, both the receiver and the transmitter, so you can go swimming in it on and stuff, no problem.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are bird hunters that have trained their dogs on e-collars.
Yeah, the ones that we use are meant for sport dogs.
Okay, all right, yeah. Those dogs are the best dogs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This guy's dogs that I know.
So the reason why I use e-collars, so any dog trained by me, if they're 6 months and older, are done on e-collars. Because it's the best tool that gets me the most consistent results and also gets off-leash reliability. So it's like, why would I bother with something that gives me 20% success when I have something that can give me like as close to 100 as possible most of the time when people are doing their homework, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the most common questions that I get is, when does the e-collar go away? And in my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay? So, and we're thinking, so it's not that you're always using it. Right, in the beginning you're going to be using it a lot because you're training everything, you're conditioning everything, you have a lot of work to do, right? Once he learns like the obedience stuff, you're going to find, as long as you're doing your homework correctly, you're not having to remote as much.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
so like my dogs, I might have to remote them like, I don't know, once every few months.
Yeah.
Because like a squirrel ran by and it just caught them off guard.
Right.
Yeah. But the reason why for me I go it doesn't go away is because you can't account for life. So like I walk my dogs a couple times through Logan Boulevard here.
Yeah.
And my pit hates fireworks, and somebody set off a firework randomly.
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't even in July.
Yeah, no, I know. They do it all year.
Yeah. So I didn't have her collars on because they weren't going to be off leash or anything.
Yeah.
But then the firework went off, and my pitty was like panicked. And she's like, I hate fireworks. She just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like crap, like, because if I had the e-collar, I could have calmed her down.
Yeah.
But I just like, all right, whatever, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But like, you don't know if he's going to be off leash, and like maybe someone sets off a firework, right?
Right. Yeah.
Is now we're in an
cat
emergency.
runs in front of them, or
Exactly.
that happened last night to Rosie. Like cats that aren't in homes, when they're out wandering around, she thinks like if she's in a home with a cat, she doesn't mess with them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're out in like a wild area, it's like she thinks it's a like prey or something.
Oh yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. You know, so stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Is it's not that you're always having to use the collar all day, every day. Mm-hmm. It's that once he's been conditioned, the presence of it will alter the behavior.
Yeah.
So like, do you drive?
Mm-hmm.
You've been on the expressway?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go the speed limit?
Not always.
Okay. Most people don't.
Yeah, I know.
Right? And that's called opportunistic behavior.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because there's no squad cars or cameras, there's no threat of consequence.
Yeah.
So we bend the rules.
Yeah.
Right? Dogs do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
So think of that e-collar as a cop on a collar.
Yeah.
Right. So when it's present, he's going to be more obedient and listen better and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just there in case of an emergency. Because people always ask like, well, if the method is so effective, or if you're such a good trainer, like, why do I still need it? And I go, well, one, even humans need reinforcers, and you bend the rules when the reinforcer's not around. Right. It's opportunistic behavior. Two, he's an animal. Mm-hmm. You know, and humans know better, and we still bend the rules. He's an animal, so why would we expect? It's funny how people expect more from the dog when they're simpler creatures.
Yeah.
So it's only when you need it though. If he's a great dog inside the house, you don't need it.
Yeah.
If you learn like, oh wow, like in the home he's great with socializing, he doesn't need it even with new people, great, you don't need it. Yeah. But if he's gonna be out like off leash anywhere or something like that, my suggestion would be he has it on just in case.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of people who have said like, oh, my dog doesn't need the e-collar anymore. I'm like, until there's an emergency. Yeah. You know, if your dog running away from a firework is not disobedience, that's the dog in fear.
Yeah, freaking out.
So, and like in your case, I know you're not going to use it anymore, but like the whole flex leash thing.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, like he's 99% reliable until there's something dragging behind him that spooks him, and now he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah, even this would do it. So.
Yeah. So those are the things that we're trying to consider. Okay. Questions so far?
No, I think it all sounds very valid.
Okay. Now, when it comes to socialization process, I mean, I definitely see some good things. Like you said, he's come out of the show quite a bit in 2 months. He went from sniffing me a few times to coming up and licking me, which was nice. He may not like everyone, okay? And we might hit a plateau. I can't make Oliver like people. That's up to Oliver. But I have exercises to incentivize him and speed up the process if it's there. Okay. And I think it is just from what I've seen, but sometimes it just doesn't always work that way. Okay. So we know the e-collar, we know what it is.
And you'll give me information on that?
Yeah, so the collar that he would need, I recommend the dogs with 280C. Maria will send you this information as well.
Okay.
It's meant for dogs 35 pounds and under. It's a relatively small box.
Okay.
There is one model that is smaller than it.
Yeah.
But I like the other one doesn't have an LED screen. It has a dial.
Oh.
And so it's not, it's more estimation.
Yeah.
So I like having the LED because one, you can see at night.
Okay.
Because it does light up. But then also you have more exact numbers. Because you can do 42, 43, 44, 45, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's 27 more levels than the other one. The other one is 100. This one is 127.
Okay.
And then it's really, you just decide what length of time you're wanting to do in terms of the control. I think you'd be fine with 9. But if you're like, no, I want to have like everything, then that's definitely the 12.
Can you add on?
You can. So I don't care what people do, but we don't prorate you. So the way it works is if you do more classes, right? Like you say, I want you for 9 weeks. You get a discounted price because you're saying I'm committing to 9 weeks, right?
Okay.
And then the way we do my calendar is, let's say you do 9 for 9 weeks plus 1, so 10 weeks. Let's say you pick the time that worked fall for you and me. That would be your time for those 10 weeks. No one can take it from you.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Then let's say you have to reschedule because of you go out of town or something for a couple of weeks. By that 10th week, you have a couple classes left over. You don't lose the classes, but you may lose that time. Okay? Especially if it's a popular time like on Saturday or Sunday or an evening during the weekday, because those are usually, when people are off work and stuff.
Yeah.
Is Maria would contact you and say hey, you use up your priority. You still have 2 classes left. Jesse has these other times available, and you would simply just switch to a different time for the last 2.
Okay.
If no one wants your time, then you keep your time, like this time on a Tuesday, no one's fighting for it, right? So then if you did 6 and you decide to extend another 6, you would just pay for another 6-week program.
Okay.
If you do 12 right up front, then it's a discounted rate because you're saying, I'm going to do the whole program or whatever, the whole 12 weeks, and then so you get a cheaper rate, okay?
All right.
Let me think.
You said 9 would be good for him.
Yeah, I think for the ESA dog, 9 would be just fine. Because that would get you the walk with me, the come to me, the behavior work, and then a don't move in terms of considerational control. And that's for the airplane stuff.
Yeah. He's already good. I have him sitting until he gets his food until I say okay. He can't go for the food, which he's very spazzy for his food.
Other questions?
Okay. My boyfriend, if he wants to participate too, he's an ER doctor and he works all different hours.
Sure.
And he works in 2 different states here.
Oh, wow.
So he's not here all the time, but I'm sure he should come for some of the classes.
The most important ones are definitely the first one.
Okay.
But also, we record the sessions now.
Yeah.
So then you can just look up Oliver's video and then just get caught up.
Do the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, that works.
So because of COVID, and we've had to alter how we train.
Yeah.
We were training out of Oz during the summer, and sometimes when it's nice out and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a nice distracting environment. But now fall's setting in,
Yeah.
and it's close to the lake and starting to get cold. So we do leave it up to the client. But we also have my facility here.
Okay.
I have a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot training space, so plenty of space to do everything.
That's cool.
And because of the way that I train, the environment doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so with e-collar, let's say the number here is 15 because it's not as distracting.
Yeah.
But outside, it might be 25 to get the same result.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very adaptable to the situation. It's just a matter of you learning how to adapt and use your tool.
Okay.
But everything stays the same. Especially for a small guy like him,
Yeah.
Because when we're at Oz for like an hour, and the lakefront's right there, and you get that lake breeze,
Yeah.
they get cold.
Oh yeah, I mean, he needs like multiple layers. He has no fur under his belly, so we have some winter clothes for him. I've never had a dog that needed winter clothes.
Sure, yeah.
He has zero fur.
Yeah, so a guy like him is definitely gonna get cold.
Yeah.
But if it's like a nice day,
Yeah.
you know, people will still do Oz.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have the space here. Shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Oh, this is close. I live in Logan, so.
Oh yeah, because you go to Palmer Spurs and
Yeah.
stuff. The other thing is everything is verbal instruction now.
Uh-huh.
So you do all the training.
Okay.
Okay, I'm there with you.
Okay.
I'm coaching you through it. But nothing's related to me,
Okay.
which I think is great now because the first class is almost always the most difficult.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what's going on, you don't know what you're doing. I'm the only person who does.
Yeah.
Right? Is you learn a lot. You know, you learn through more mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
And working through those things, so you become a better handler.
Okay.
And you become more so like more fluid with the remote.
Okay.
Because it's all about adapting to a situation.
Mhm.
Because life's not black and white. Like it's not always going to be, you know, rainbows and daisies.
Mhm.
Stuff is going to happen. You want to know how to be able to use that tool to like correct things or like to like, oh, don't get your butt over here. You can't
Yeah.
run away type of stuff. So he's a
Oh,
gay
and these
little
are the
guy.
muzzles, right? Yeah, he's so curious. He's like
Yeah.
a little, like a.
Yeah, that's the brand of muzzle I recommend.
Okay. And
So he's probably like a 1 or a 2.
yeah, this is the one. Can I look? Open it
Yeah.
up?
You look good.
Yeah, he's like very curious. He's like curious George. I think he's gonna be a 1. Yeah, we have those. We have those trees at home, don't we? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's probably a 1. This looks really big. Let's see if you put it on. Yeah. Okay, you want to eat it. He loves rubber.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Rosie eats in food toys and the puzzle toys.
Sure.
Because she'll eat too fast. You know, labs are just like voracious eaters.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes them and like chews on them and pulls them apart. And she's like, go ahead, it makes it easier for me to get the food out.
Sure.
He loves it. You're curious.
Other questions?
I don't think so. That sounds really good. What's your, I guess, like, you're open, it's just depending on what's happening.
Yeah, Maria talked to you about that.
Okay.
I've learned not to talk about my schedule
All right.
because it changes all the time. But yeah, you know, we can do a consistent schedule. If you want to get your boyfriend to be more so a part of it,
Yeah.
we have other clients that have a rotating schedule.
Okay.
That just means that I may not see you though,
Yeah.
you know, if he's not able to be around all the time. But like I said, we also have the recordings here, so you can always review all of his video himself.
Okay.
And catch up on anything that he may have missed. But other than that, I don't foresee any real issues here. I think you've already made a lot of progress. So I think it's just learning a little bit more to be able to proactively get him to advance as opposed to like really just keeping it still at his
Yeah.
pace. And then the ESA control, like the obedience, the level of obedience and stuff, that's always the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's just mechanical response, like lay down, don't move.
Yeah.
It's the behavior stuff that's always the trickiest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, the socialization.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome. So if you need anything else, you can let us know. Otherwise, I'll get in touch with Maria and she'll follow up with you with an email.
All right. Cool.
She'll give you the information for the e-collar that you'll need to get them on Amazon.
Okay.
And then I suggest, getting a muzzle, you get them on Amazon as well, Baskerville size
Yeah.
1. And you do want to get the Baskerville brand. There's some knockoffs on there that are not as good. And then start that muzzle conditioning right away.
Okay.
Maria, I'll tell her to send you the link. We have videos ourselves
Okay.
that we provide people that they watch and they just start the process. And I have one that I did with the dog here. So you learn my style of muzzle conditioning.
Okay.
And then this way, by the time we've started and we hit class 3 and it's like, okay, now let's start the socialization process.
Yeah.
It's already been done. Ideally, there shouldn't be any issues.
Yeah.
If there are any issues, we can work through it, but it'll be a lot easier knowing that you've already did like a lot of precursor work.
Okay.
Okay.
And so when I'm doing the muzzle training, all of his food should be going that way. That's
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's gonna be like, man, I love that thing because
Yeah.
now it's the only time I get to eat.
Yeah, that's good because that's good because he eats too fast anyway, so it'll be good to work with him with that.
Yep.
All right, cool. I'm excited to get him to be normal.
He's a cute little guy.
Isn't he cute? I know.
I like his ears.
I know. Yeah, I'm waiting for his DNA to come back to see exactly what he is. I think he's terrier mixed with the Italian Greyhound. So
Sure. I could see the